Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Show us, Lord, your love and grant us your salvation. Hallelujah. 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 The Lord be with you.
And with the Spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of man, the coming of the Son of Man. In those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day that Noah entered the ark. They did not know until the flood came and carried them all away. So it will also be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be out in the field. One will be taken, and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken, and one will be left. Therefore stay awake, for you do not know on which day your Lord will come. Be sure of this. If the master of the house had known the hour of night when the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and not let his house be broken into. So too, you also must be prepared. For at an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Well, here we are. Advent. First Sunday of Advent. First Sunday of the new liturgical year. Cycle C is in our rearview mirror. Cycle A, Matthew awaits us. And as we've been speaking about over the last several weeks, every year when we wind down yet another liturgical year to go to another, the readings become apocalyptic, eschatological in nature, the end time, and the work. It was the week before the last Sunday of the year that it was introduced, the end of the world. And then the last Sunday of the year, which is Christ the King, which was last Sunday, it was about the end of the world. Now here we are in a new liturgical season, and it is about the end of the world. So we've been at this for 3 Sundays in a row. I guess the church just wants to really make sure that we understand this point. The point is simply this. There is going to become a time in every one of our lives, whether that's an individual end of the world or a collective end of the world, it's coming for all of us. And are we ready? It's really the question. And I don't know. Some gospels are easier to preach than others, and this is not a really easy gospel to preach, and I'll tell you why. Because of the world that we live in. Søren Kierkegaard, he's a Danish philosopher and theologian, has this wonderful story that kind of sums it up about the end of the world, what that might look like. He describes a theater that's packed, and a variety show is going on. The theater is a world, the show is a world. And every act is more fantastic than the next act, the following act. And they're raucous applause and cheering, and it's just a wild show going on. And in the middle of it, the stage manager comes out into the middle of the audience and steps on stage and says, "I'm really sorry to interrupt the show, but there's a small fire in the theater. And the show's over. We have to slowly move towards the exits." And the crowd just applauded even more wildly and laughed and cheered, thinking that this was part of the show. the stage manager said, no, no, no. This is not part of the show. This is true. There is a fire in the theater, and we must leave. And the crowd cheered wildly and laughed, thinking how wonderful this turn of events is. Finally, the stage manager just raised his hands and says, well, slipped out the back door, and a few minutes later, fire raced through that theater and took that fun-loving audience with it into a fiery destruction. And that is exactly what the end of the world is going to be like in this world. Because we live like we're never going to die. We live like there'll never be an end. That is what Advent is about. Advent is about wake up, my friend. Advent, which by the way has been hijacked by a large man in a red suit these days, is not about tinsel and reindeer and manger scenes. Advent is about getting prepared, not for the coming of the birthday of Christ, which it is, of course, that's one level, but the bigger level is that the second coming of Christ, meaning the end of the world. Advent is a penitential time. It's a period of self-reflection. It's a period of time of getting ready. Do we live our lives with that expectancy? That's what Advent is. Like going to a symphony, and the house lights go down, and it gets dark, and people hush, and the conductor raises his baton, and the music is just about ready to start. There's that sense of anticipation. That's what we're called to do, and to live that way. But do we really live that way? I'm reminded of my 5-year-old nephew. I just saw him over Thanksgiving, and when he stands in front of the television set, it's just like he's possessed. It's just like him. You know, and he's watching his cartoons or whatever, and you could be sitting there, standing there saying, you know, we can go to Dairy Queen if you like to, and he can't even hear it. He can't hear any reality outside until you go turn off the TV, and then it's like all of a sudden this little boy just comes to life. You know, because the television set has such power. Well, that's analogous to our lives. Our lives, we are so glued to what we're going to wear next, what we're going to eat next, where we're going to go next so we can talk about it, that we completely miss the reality of what we really are called for, which is a life in Christ. He's coming, my friend. Whether we're ready for it or not, he is coming. And if we're not ready, we best get ready, and that is what Advent is about. Advent is about getting ready, preparing yourself for Jesus Christ to walk into the door at any moment because he could. Now, if he did, let's say, for example, he came next Tuesday at 11:30, okay, and he walked in, what would be the greatest thing that he could catch you doing? What would be the greatest thing? I mean, forget the worst thing, because, I mean, I'm sure we've got a long list of what the worst things could possibly be, but what would be the greatest thing that Jesus Christ could find you doing if he came? And I think the answer to that is pretty obvious. The greatest thing that Jesus Christ could find you doing when he comes is being about his business. What is his business? Well, fortunately for us, we have a pope right now that's just absolutely blowing my mind with this encyclical that he just came out with actually last Sunday, Christ the King. He postulated this new encyclical. It's called Evangelium Gaudae, which is the joy of the gospel. And I've been reading it over the last couple of days, and oh, it's a mind blower. I'm telling you what, you really should get this. And the reason it's so great is because I've grown up my whole life, well, not my whole life, you know, as a kid I didn't care, okay, but you know, my adult life, looking at, well, certainly since formation to priesthood, I've looked at many encyclicals. All the way, you know, old encyclicals of old popes, and of course John Paul II, you know, he was so cerebral, he would write incredible stuff, but, you know, it's great, but he couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. I'm not that smart. I mean, I have to get up every third word and Google what it meant. I mean, he's just so out there. Benedict was better. Benedict was better because John Jacob too, he wrote by committee, so it was very disjointed. Benedict was an author before he was pope. So Benedict was, but even Benedict was pretty hard to understand. But this guy, Francis, oh my word. I mean, you don't need anybody to explain it to you. He's writing things like, we are Christians, we're living like Lent without Easter. Who doesn't understand what that means? And basically, what he is saying, and like I said, I haven't finished it. I was trying to get it done before the weekend, but you know how it is. With kids running around Thanksgiving, I couldn't do anything. But I read about half of it. And the bottom line of what Francis is telling us is that we need to get outside of our own heads and realize that there's a big bad world out there, and we need to get off this obsession with these cultural issues, such as abortion, such as gay marriage, such as the hot topics. It's eluding me right now, but the same things that come up all the time. Okay, he's not saying that he thinks that abortion is okay. Of course it's not. And he's not saying that he promotes homosexuality, because he's not. He's not changing the dogma of the church. But what he's saying is these are secondary issues that we're getting lost in, and we're completely missing the foundational principles of the gospel, which is that Christ loves you and wants to get involved in your life. And he's going to save you from yourself if you give your will over to the care of his will, which is the basic message of the good news. A fourth grader could recite it, but we have convoluted it because we are so protective of our liturgy. We are so afraid somehow. We need self-preservation, and we're so turned. This is not me, okay? This is Pope Francis. We are so turned inwardly and self-obsessed with each other that we don't even go out into the world. We don't go out. We are called to be missionaries. We are called, like the woman at the well, when she heard the good news, to go into town and tell the people. We are called, like the disciples when they first saw Jesus. What do? Run up, come and see. We are called, like Paul when he got knocked off the horse, to go out there and evangelize. We are called to spread the good news. You say, well, God, I thought that was your job. You're the priest. You're supposed to do that. I'll listen to you, but that's not really what I do. That's not true. What Pope Francis is saying, it is all of our jobs, however we might be able to do this, to witness to the love of Jesus Christ in his salvation. That's it. And that's what we can hope that we would be found doing when he comes. You know what the scariest words in the Bible are? There's few. There's a few scary words. But the scariest one, at least to me, is when he says, many will come to me and say, Lord, Lord, didn't we do great works in your name? And he says, you know what? I don't believe we've ever even met. I don't believe I know. Let us not be caught by surprise on the day. We cannot expect to live our lives in self-obsession with our own lives turned inwardly from the beginning to the end, and then meet Christ and expect him to know us. We can't expect that. That is not our side of the street. That's not our part of the deal. And Advent is saying, like I said, this is not easy. Because I'm a fuzzy-wuzzy guy. I like to talk about the love, okay? But you can't talk about the love here. We have to talk about being prepared. We have to talk about being open. We have to talk about being ready. And how are we ready? When we get outside of our own heads and we serve the people of God. And those are usually people that don't know who God is.